Creating a stylized image working from an original photograph, there are many different ways you can do this. You can see here this one has been built up in different layers using different expressive media and techniques. This video talks you through how it was made. Look at your original image for inspiration and start to sketch out the main details of the image. You can then start to go over those with ink and stick. This will be quite an expressive way of working and will give you definite qualities of line that you can't get from any other material. Inks or coffee can be used to colour wash different backgrounds. If you've put white emulsion paint or white acrylic paint down and created texture and marks with that, as long as it's dry, it will create a slight resist technique and give you more detail in the work. If you make sure that you go over the areas that need that base colour and leave it to dry. Another thing you can do whilst it's wet is you can sprinkle salt into the wet background and leave that to dry. It'll then dry with a slight speckle, adding a little bit more interest. But that's up to you, it's optional. You don't have to do it and, everyone likes a different type of effect. You might add slightly more coloured ink or coffee in certain areas if you want that area to be darker, or you may even mix together different types of ink. The darker the coffee or the darker the ink, the more that resist or that texture will start to show up. You could also play around with wax crayon or oil pastel underneath to put down a coloured layer that then repels the colour wash and the ink. You must then let it dry fully before moving on. Once dry, you can start to redefine the details, the shapes, and add all sorts of different bits of texture using other materials. It's up to you which materials you use. In this case, I've just gone back in with pencil crayons, starting to skim across the top of that dried emulsion texture to create and highlight a different type of surface, especially in the centre of the flower. Where I wanted some more subtle areas, I used the white emulsion and a glue spreader and dragged it in a thin layer, certainly over the top of the greens in that background, to create a more mottled surface. I also then added in little highlights where I wanted white flecks to be, just using the upright spreader to create those thin lines. You can see some of the curly squiggly marks that are underneath the layer that are adding that little bit of interest to the image.